Why does another person's success sting more than you expect? Nietzsche believed that envy is not just jealousy, it is your soul confessing what you have abandoned. You think you don't feel envy. You tell yourself you are above it, that you simply admire or dislike people for good reasons. But Nietzsche warned that envy rarely shows itself directly. It hides in disguises. It slips out through the tone of your criticism, the way you gossip about someone, or the satisfaction you secretly feel when another person stumbles. Most people never say, "I am envious." Instead, they cloak it in words like unfair, arrogant, or undeserved. But underneath those judgments is a wound. Envy is not just about wanting what someone else has. It is about feeling that their success makes you smaller, that their light casts a shadow over you. From childhood, you are trained to suppress this feeling. Envy is ugly, so you bury it. You pretend it is not there, but buried envy does not disappear. It ferments. It leaks out in subtle ways. You dismiss someone's achievements by saying they had an advantage you never had. You roll your eyes at a person's happiness and call it fake. You criticize someone for showing off, but the truth is that their display touched a nerve in you. Nietzsche called this resentment, a deep form of envy mixed with bitterness, where instead of pursuing your own strength, you redefine the other person's strength as a weakness. The person who is successful becomes greedy. The confident person becomes arrogant. The free spirit becomes irresponsible. The disguise of moral judgment makes envy feel righteous, but it is still envy. What makes envy so dangerous is that it feeds on your energy silently. While you are busy tearing others down in your mind, you are giving them your attention and your power. You are measuring yourself against their life instead of building your own. And the more you do this, the weaker you become. Nietzsche saw that envy was not just a passing emotion, but a prison. It chains you to others because your worth now depends on comparison. You cannot celebrate your own progress without asking how it stacks up against theirs. You cannot enjoy your path because you are too busy staring at someone else's. But envy is clever. It convinces you that your judgments are objective. You believe you dislike someone because of their behavior, not because they remind you of what you secretly wish you had. That is the secret face of envy. It does not shout. It whispers. It tells you that you are just being honest, that you are just pointing out flaws. Yet every time you feel that little sting when you see someone succeed, it is not about them. It is about you. It is the part of you that has gone neglected, the part that fears it will never be enough. The first step is brutal honesty. You cannot overcome envy until you see it for what it is. Every sharp criticism, every moment of gossip, every time you downplay another person's joy is a signal. Envy is revealing itself, even if you deny it. Nietzsche's insight is clear. The enemy is not the other person. The enemy is the way envy steals your focus and poisons your energy. Until you unmask it, envy will keep shaping your judgments while convincing you it has nothing to do with you. You probably think comparison is harmless. You tell yourself it motivates you, that looking at others gives you a standard to measure against. But Nietzsche saw it differently. He believed that comparison is the breeding ground of resentment, the soil where envy grows into something poisonous. When you compare your life to others, you are no longer walking your own path. You are walking theirs in your mind. Their progress becomes your ruler. Their success becomes your failure. And without noticing, you hand over control of your self-worth to someone else. Look at how it happens in daily life. You scroll through a feed and see someone smiling in a place you have never been. You notice a friend getting recognition at work while you remain unseen. The thought creeps in quietly. Why them and not me? You do not call it envy. You say it is just observing, just noticing. But in that moment, your focus has left your own life. Nietzsche would say you have stepped into the herd. The herd mentality thrives on comparison. It trains people to move together, to value what the group values, to measure worth by popularity, attention, and status. And when you live in the herd's eyes, your individuality withers. What makes comparison so destructive is not only that it distracts you, it warps your vision. You stop seeing people for who they are and see them only as threats or benchmarks. Someone else's success feels like a reminder of your failure. Their happiness feels like a spotlight on your lack. Their freedom feels like a judgment on your chains. Nietzsche warned that this constant measuring keeps you small, because instead of creating, you are reacting. You are chasing what others already have instead of discovering what only you can bring into the world. And the trap is deeper than you think. Social approval is addictive. Every time you receive praise, it feels like proof you are doing well. Every time you are ignored, it feels like evidence you are falling behind. This cycle makes you dependent. It teaches you to look outward for validation instead of inward for direction. Nietzsche saw this dependence as one of the greatest dangers to the spirit. A person who needs applause to feel worthy has already surrendered their freedom. They no longer ask what is true for them. They only ask what will be admired. You may not even notice how much energy comparison steals. Hours spent replaying what someone else achieved, silent resentment when another person shines, a restless feeling that no matter what you do, it is never enough because someone, somewhere, is doing more. Nietzsche's answer was not to blind yourself to others, but to shift your gaze. The problem is not that others succeed. The problem is that you let their success define your story. Comparison is a trap because it looks like awareness, but it is actually distraction. It tells you that the way forward is to measure higher, but all it does is tie your worth to external scales. The truth is simple and hard at once. Until you stop comparing, you will never be free to focus. And until you focus, you will never create the life that only you can. When you criticize someone, what are you really saying? Most people think their judgments are about the other person, but Nietzsche believed they reveal far more about the one speaking. Envy is not always loud or obvious. It hides inside words, tone, and reactions. When you mock someone's confidence, when you resent someone's success, when you gossip about their life, what you are really confessing is your own hunger. Envy's secret is that it does not expose them. It exposes you. Think about the times you felt irritation at another person's achievement. Maybe it was a friend who took a risk you were too afraid to take. Maybe it was someone who received recognition you believed you deserved. The sting you felt in that moment was not proof that they were undeserving. It was proof that a part of you longed for the same thing. Nietzsche saw envy as unspoken desire, a silent admission of what you want but have not allowed yourself to pursue. That is why envy is so uncomfortable. It is not just bitterness. It is your abandoned dreams staring you in the face. This is why attacks are rarely about the target. A person who mocks creativity often fears their own lack of originality. The one who criticizes wealth is sometimes the one who feels powerless with money. The one who ridicules love might be someone who secretly craves connection. Nietzsche believed that what we condemn in others is often what we cannot face in ourselves. We project the qualities we have denied, and envy turns them into weapons. But behind the weapon is a confession. Once you see this, everything changes. Envy no longer looks like proof of weakness. It becomes a signal. It tells you exactly what you are missing, exactly what you secretly desire but have been too afraid to admit. If you feel envy towards someone who travels freely, perhaps your spirit is craving adventure. If you resent someone who builds boldly, perhaps your soul is aching to create. Envy is not only poison, it is a mirror. And if you look closely, it shows you the very path you have ignored. Most people feel shame when they notice envy. They try to bury it, pretend it is not there, or cover it with moral superiority. But Nietzsche would say, the braver path is to acknowledge it, to treat envy as a confession of your deeper hunger. Every time you feel that sting when you see another person shine, you are being given information about yourself. The question is not, why do they have it? The question is, what is this feeling telling me about what I want? By decoding envy in this way, you remove its power to poison you. Instead of sinking into resentment, you listen to its message. You realize that envy points not to their life, but to your own unfinished work. The confession has always been there. It was never about them. It was about you, your longing, and the part of you that refuses to stay silent. Most people think the answer to envy is to get rid of it, to bury it under positivity, or pretend it never exists. But Nietzsche believed that denying envy only makes it stronger. The more you push it down, the more it festers in silence. The real power comes not from ignoring envy, but from transforming it. What poisons you can also fuel you if you know how to use it. Think of envy as raw energy. When you see someone achieving what you crave, you feel a surge. At first, it hurts. It feels like a reminder of what you do not have. But inside, that sting is information. That energy is pointing you toward what you truly want. The tragedy is that most people waste it. Instead of acting on it, they direct the energy outward. They gossip, criticize, or try to cut others down. But this does nothing. It leaves you bitter, still empty, still without the thing you wanted. Nietzsche's challenge is to take that same energy and redirect it inward, to build instead of destroy. Ask yourself, what if every time envy appeared, it was not a punishment, but a compass? What if the person you envied was not your rival, but your teacher? Their success shows you what is possible. Their freedom shows you where you still feel chained. Their courage shows you what you are still avoiding. When you see envy as a signal instead of a curse, you turn the poison into power. Nietzsche saw the will to power as the core of life itself. Not power over others, but the inner drive to grow, to expand, to create. Envy, when acknowledged honestly, is a spark of that will. It is your desire reminding you that you are capable of more. The problem is not the feeling. The problem is what you do with it. If you let it rot, it becomes resentment. If you use it, it becomes ambition. Imagine two people standing in front of the same success. One feels envy and begins to complain, to criticize, to make excuses. The other feels envy and thinks, if it is possible for them, it is possible for me. Both feel the same sting, but one wastes it while the other builds with it. This is the difference between envy as poison and envy as power. The next time envy hits you, pause. Do not run from it. Ask what it is telling you. Is it showing you the courage you have not taken? Is it pointing at the work you have neglected? Is it exposing the dream you have buried under fear? The moment you admit this, envy loses its grip. It no longer keeps you chained to bitterness. It becomes fuel for creation. Nietzsche would remind you that the fire inside you is not lit by comfort, but by tension. Envy is tension. It burns because it matters. And if you learn to carry that fire into your own work, the very feeling that once made you bitter becomes the force that drives you forward. You cannot end envy by chasing more. You cannot silence it by outdoing the people you compare yourself to. Even if you win, there will always be someone else ahead, someone else with more. Nietzsche's answer was not to keep running the race, but to step out of it, to stop letting the measure of your worth come from other people, and to focus on your own path. Think of how much of your life has been spent in the shadow of comparison. You achieve something and feel proud for a moment, but then you see someone else doing more, and the pride fades. You share a success and feel good until you notice that theirs received greater applause. In those moments, your joy is stolen, not because your work has less value, but because you measured it by someone else's scale. Nietzsche called this slavery to the herd. When your value is determined by the eyes of others, you no longer live for yourself. You live for their approval. Freedom begins the moment you refuse to play that game, to say, my path is not theirs, and their path is not mine. Nietzsche's vision was not about isolation or indifference. It was about becoming unshakable, about living guided by your own light, even when no one applauds. When you stop measuring yourself against the crowd, you start discovering what is truly yours. You no longer ask, am I better than them? You begin to ask, am I becoming what I was meant to be? This shift is more powerful than it sounds, because the energy once wasted on envy is released back to you. Instead of resenting what others have, you channel that energy into creating something that reflects your own spirit. You realize that envy was not an enemy after all. It was a signal showing you where your hunger lived, but its real purpose was to push you inward toward the work only you can do. Nietzsche often spoke of becoming who you are. He meant that each person carries within them a unique potential, a shape of life that no one else can fill. The tragedy of envy is that it blinds you to that potential. You are so busy staring at what others have built that you neglect the ground beneath your own feet. To focus on your path is to take that blindness away. It is to recognize that the only comparison worth making is between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today. When you finally choose this, something remarkable happens. The success of others no longer threatens you. It inspires you without consuming you. Their light does not cast a shadow over you. It proves that light is possible, and you realize that envy was never about them. It was about you, waiting to wake up to your own direction. Freedom comes when you no longer crave what belongs to others. Freedom comes when you begin to create what belongs to you. That is Nietzsche's invitation, to walk your path guided not by applause, not by comparison, but by the light that only you can bring into the world.